Alright, so yesterday we added and subtracted in order to solve equations. So we're going to do a little bit of review today, and then we're going to add in some rational numbers. Anybody tell me what rational numbers means? Fractions and decimals? So we're going to learn how to do it with fractions and decimals, okay? So first, let's review how we're doing it. So we are solving and checking. Okay. Anytime we are solving equations, we are always checking. So, number one, I have r minus 3 equals 14. Somebody tell me how I solve for r. Carlin. Good. I'm going to add 3 to both sides because I want whatever number that's with r, I want that to be a 0. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. Okay. So when I do that, my 3's cancel, and it leaves me with just r. And then I have 14 plus 3. Roman. 17. So r equals 17.
I don't get that. Why do you add?
Okay, I'm doing the opposite of what I'm given. So I'm given r minus 3. I want r to be by itself. So I want my minus 3 to become a 0.
Alright, so like if it's plus, you're subtracting it.
You're doing exactly the opposite. So whatever you're given, you're doing the opposite. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
That's how we did the chips.
Mm-hmm.
You said if we have the same, it was like yellow and red.
That gave us the balance. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we're doing our opposites. Okay. Can anybody tell me what property this was we learned yesterday?
Addition, property.
Good. The addition property of equality. Because I'm adding to both sides. So I added 3 to both sides, so that's why it's the addition property of equality. Because I'm adding 3 in order to keep a balanced equation. Am I done yet? No. I have to check it. So if I'm checking it, that means I'm just plugging in whatever number I found for r into r. Amaya?
Oh, say it.
What's your question?
Oh, I didn't have a question.
So if I'm plugging it in, that means I'm plugging it into my original equation, which was r minus 3 equals 14. And then I'm plugging in 17 for r. So 17 minus 3 equals 14. I found out that r equals 17, so I'm trying to see if I'm right or not. So I'm just plugging in 17 for r into my original equation to see if it checks out. So what is 17 minus 3?
14.
Is 14 equal to 14?
Yes.
Yes, so I know that r is really equal to 17. My answer is correct.
Get your answer and what you added.
You're solving this side of your equation to check it. Because remember, anything that's on the left-hand side of my equation should always be equal to the right side. So I plug in my answer for r to see if the left-hand side really equals the right-hand side.
Yeah, when you get down to 17, you always, when you're checking it, so that's the answer from what you added with 3.
I'm just solving this. So I'm just doing exactly what it tells me. I'm just subtracting 17 and 3. Okay. So I'm just plugging it in. I think you're overthinking it a little. Alright, so let's look at another one. We've got 7 plus a equals negative 10. I'm solving for a. So how do I solve for a? Maya.
You add 10. I mean, no. Add 7. Which one are we on?
Number 2. I want to get a by itself. Roman, help her out.
You subtract 7 from
From both sides. I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. The number that's with your variable, because you want your variable by itself. We can add 10 to both sides like we just did, but remember that's just going to add a whole other step that's really unnecessary. Olivia. Okay, so what do I get? Olivia was trying to answer for me. A equals negative 17. What property of equality is that? Subtraction. Because I'm subtracting 7 from both sides. We can't forget these properties, okay? We need to know them. Am I done? Gotta check it. So how do I check it? Olivia.
You start off with the 8, the 7. That's 7 plus 8 equals 10. And then you do 7, negative 17.
7 plus
Yeah. 7 plus
negative 17, right? Because I found that A is negative 17. So I just plug it in for A. So then that should be equal to negative 10. And now all I'm doing is just actually doing this. 7 plus negative 17. Which gives me what? Negative 10. Which they are equal.
Do you have to put negative 10 on the key?
It has to be negative, right? Because my equation was negative 10. Because negative 10 is a total different number than positive 10. Any questions? All right. What if I have negative 9 plus n equals 13? How do I solve for n there? Add 9 to both sides. Good, because I have a negative 9, which is the same as subtraction, right? So that means I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So when I do that, my 9's cancel, leaving me with an n, which equals 13 plus 9, which is what?
22.
22. Am I done yet?
No.
Got to check it. So I'm going to plug it in. So that means I have negative 9. Question?
Oh, we don't have to do this.
You tell me. What property is it?
The addition property of equality.
The addition property of equality. Good. Alright, so if I check it, I'm plugging it in. So that means I have negative 9 plus 22 equals 13. What's negative 9 plus 22? 13. So my answer is right. Questions? Alright, what if I have a decimal? So what if I have S plus 13 equals 18? Does anything change? No. So how do I solve for S? Olivia, help. Subtract 1.3 from both sides.
Is that a 5 or an
F.
S?
So I'm subtracting 1.3 from both sides. So then my 1.3's cancel. So it leaves me with S, which is equal to what? 18 minus 1.3. What is it? 16.7. So then when I check it, I just plug it in. So that means I have 16.7 plus 1.3 equals 18. So when I add those two numbers together, what do I get? Bless you. What's 16.7 plus 1.3? 18. So no, my answer is correct. So nothing changes when I have decimals. It's still the same exact steps. You're just having to add and subtract decimals instead of whole numbers. What if I throw a fraction into the mix? Sorry, this is 5. So what if I have V minus 18 equals 13 7/10? I'm going to add 18 to both sides. Alright, so I've got 13 7/10 plus 18. Do I want to add these fractions by keeping them mixed numbers, or do I want to change them to improper fractions? Improper? Okay. So if I change it to an improper fraction, how do I do that? 13 times 10 plus 7 over 10. And then how do I change 18 to an improper fraction? 18 over 1. Can I add them yet? Why not, Corey? When I add or subtract fractions, I have to find a common denominator, which is what? 10. So that means I multiply this side by 10. So I get 137 over 10 plus what? 180 over 10. What does that give me? 137 plus 180. 317 over 10. So V equals either 317 over 10, or since my original problem had it as a mixed number, that normally tells me that I need my answer in a mixed number. Okay. So if they don't specify what they want your answer in, you should always put it in however they gave it to you to begin with. Okay. So if I want to change this back to an improper or a mixed number, how do I do that? Dominique. Good. See how many times 10 will go into 317? How many times? 31 with how many left over? How many? 7.
The calculator is simplified.
Very smart.
So then I need. You have a question?
No, I was going to say, I can find a different way.
Okay, what'd you do? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Am I done?
No, you gotta check it.
I gotta check it. So if I'm checking it, do you think it's going to be easier to use my improper fraction or my mixed number? Mixed number?
Yeah.
Okay, doesn't matter. So if I have 31 and 7/10 minus 18 equals 13 and 7/10. So then how do I solve that?
31 minus 18.
Then I get what? 13 and 7/10. Which is equal, right? So you're doing the same thing. You're just using fractions. With the decimal? A fraction? Okay, one more with the fraction. And then we can do our homework. Faster. Alright, so let's say I have W minus 1/10 equals 8/25. I'm solving for W. So how do I do that? 6. Sorry. So what do I do to solve for W? Add 1/10 to both sides. So then my 1/10s cancel, which leaves me with a W on the left. Then I have 8/25 plus 1/10. Olivia. What? Over 50? Okay. So we can plug this in our calculator or we can do it longhand. Either way, you still need to know how to add and subtract fractions without calculators. But if I wanted to plug it into my calculator, that means you can either use your fraction button or you can just use parentheses. What does 8/25 really mean? 8 divided by 25. So if I put 8 divided by 25 in parentheses, and then I'm adding 1/10, right? So then I'm going to put 1 divided by 10 in parentheses. Hit my equal button. 42. And then, what is it? Second. Oh, how do I put it back into a fraction?
Just do it the other way.
Hold on. There's a button.
I think you put second and ABC.
That's why we need to know how to do it in our heads. My other calculator, I don't know how to do it. Okay. So even if I add them, so let's say I have 8/25 plus 1/10. Find a common denominator, which is going to be what? 50. So I can multiply my first fraction by 2 and my second fraction by what? 5. So then that gives me 16/25.
Why you multiply? Yeah, and 2 and 5. Why you multiply 2 and 5?
Because I've got to find a common denominator, which we said my common denominator is going to be 50. Whoops. Because what? Because I can't add fractions if I don't have a common denominator, right?
Right.
So I have to find that common denominator. I can't add these if I have 25 on one and 10 on one.
So what did you just do, divide?
I have to find a common denominator, so I figure out what that is. So looking at 25 and 50, the smallest common factor is going to be 50. So I'm going to see what I can do to this to make it 50 and what I can do to this one to make it 50. So I know I can multiply 25 times 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. And I got 16/50. And then I have multiply 1/10 by 5 to get 50. So that means I have 5 over 50. Okay. What is 16 plus 5? So I have 21 over 50. So W equals 21 over 50. You have to know how to do this in your head as well.
I know what to do in my head.
Alright, so if I check it, that means I've got 21 over 50 minus 1 over 10, which should equal 8 over 25. Can I subtract them like this? Why? What do I have to do to subtract or add fractions? Guys, you know this. You've learned this for 2 years now. We have got to know how to add and subtract fractions. If I'm adding or subtracting fractions, I have to have a common denominator. So that means I have to multiply my 1/10 by 5 so that I can get a common denominator of 50. So I have 21 over 50 minus 5 over 50, which should equal 8 over 25. What is 21 minus 5? (21 minus 5). 16 over 50. Is that equal to 8 over 25? It is, but I have to simplify it to really see, right? So if I divide both numbers by what? By what? 2? What's 16 divided by 2? What's 50 divided by 2? Is 8 over 25 equal to 8 over 25? So my answer is correct. Alright, so your homework. Go back.
I'm so ready to go to homecoming tomorrow. The fractions, the hard one. The decimal and